My name is Mrs. Lafferty, and I thank you guys for joining us for our sixth grade curriculum night. We will go ahead and post the PowerPoint onto our sixth grade blog. That way you can have all of the resources that we have on there and access to that again. On our sixth grade blog, you'll also have our email addresses. Right now, email is the best way to get a hold of us if you have any questions or concerns or comments or anything that you'd like to let us know. One other thing that I do want to mention is I'd love for you to make sure that you are following our sixth grade blog. You can Google search Wolf Canyon sixth grade and our blog will pop up. And that's one of the best ways for you to get the most current information on what's happening with your child. And on there, you'll also see the learning schedule, which Mr. Riggs is going to go ahead and talk to you about.
All right, so we're a few weeks in, so I'm sure that most of you already know the learning schedule, but I'm still going to go over it just in case. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, those days are identical. We're going to start with the daily morning meeting, then independent reading, and then your child will go into period 1, which if they have Mr. Lee or myself as their homeroom teacher, they'll start with math. And if they have Miss Lafferty or Miss Robbins, then they will go to language arts first. And then we will have a recess at 10:35, and after 20 minutes, they'll come back to their other teacher to have period 2 and their other subject. Then the whole school goes to lunch at 12, and at 12:45, students need to come back and sign in for their read aloud. After that, your child will either be going to social studies with myself or Miss Robbins, or they will be going to science with Miss Lafferty or Mr. Lee. On Friday, basically the day is the same until the afternoon. And in the afternoon, the only real difference is instead of social studies or science, they go to what we like to call Genius Hour or 20% Day. If you'd like to know more about 20% Day, I mean, you can ask your child, but also you can go to the sixth grade website and there's a little tab on the left-hand side that says 20%. And then you can go see all the resources there for 20% Day. Now, really, the day that's really different is Wednesday, because that's the day that we have VAPA. And so that's art and music. And so to fit the core subjects in, we moved independent reading to before or after lunch, depending on when your child goes to VAPA. Also on Wednesdays, there is no morning recess time. So your child should have a snack maybe between period 1 and period 2. Next, I'm going to be talking to you about the expectations of sixth grade. Of course, things are a little different since we're doing distance learning, but a lot of things are still the same. If we were still in class, we'd still ask your child to try their best. We'd still ask them to have a positive attitude every day when they come to class. We want them to show grit, grace, and greatness when they are at school. To help us with distance learning, though, specifically, we ask that cameras stay on and microphones are off unless your child is called upon. It helps the teacher to assess whether students are understanding or not if the camera is on, because then we can see your child's face and we can see their facial expressions. And if your child is understanding, then we'll see it on their face. And if your child is completely lost, we'll see it on their face. The other reason, though, why we want the cameras on is because it kind of normalizes the distance learning experience and kind of brings us together a little bit. So we do ask, minus technical issues, please have your child have their camera on unless otherwise asked not to. And please have them have their microphone off. As far as the virtual learning expectations, we want your child to be on time. We only have a certain amount of time. And so if they could come to each class ready to go, that would be great. They should wake up early, eat breakfast, and logging in a few minutes early and just waiting for the teacher to start the meeting would be excellent. As far as location in your house is concerned, we really want you to help your child find a place that's quiet and free from distractions such as younger brothers and sisters, video games, and TVs. We know that those are really easy to but I really want to finish my video game. Yeah, but if it's not in front of you, you're less likely to give in to the temptation and turn it on. So we ask that if possible, have those distractions not where your child is doing their distance learning. As well, we want them to be prepared, so make sure that their device is charged, and headphones are fantastic if they have them. As far as the presentation is concerned, what we mean by that is it is a great idea for your child to wear appropriate clothing for school, because even though they're not going to school, they are seen on the camera, and it just kind of, again, it normalizes things and it makes them feel a little bit more like they're at school. We'd ask them to sit up straight because that's just good for your body and your posture. and to be in camera view. We don't just want to see the top of their head or just their shoulder or anything like that. Participation is key when it comes to distance learning. If the students don't participate, we really do feel like we are talking to ourselves. And I already do enough of that, so I'd really like to speak to your kids too. We want them to be focused, attentive, and to be as much of an active participant as they possibly can. As far as the chat is concerned, we've got the chat in the actual meetings, and then there's the Teams chat. On both of those, we just ask that students keep the chats on topic. Communication, a lot of our cameras sometimes don't work or our microphones will go in and out, so speak clearly, stay on topic, and notify your teacher if you need restroom breaks. Just send us a chat. You don't have to pause our class to tell us that you're using the restroom. Just a Teams chat will do fine. And then finally, just like if we were at school, be respectful, be kind, and be considerate.
So one of the big things that parents want to know is, what is my child responsible for after hours or each day? If you do subscribe to the blog, you will see that there's kind of an interactive daily practice calendar that students can go on to every day and take a look at what is my quote unquote homework. It's mostly what do we do when we're not live with the teacher. So because we normally see your children from anywhere from 5 to 6 hours a day typically, we're now seeing them for about 4 hours a day. And so we're really trying to make the most of our time with them. And so we really want them to do a few things every day in order to keep up with their education. One of the things that we definitely want them to do every night is read for 30 minutes. That could be an AR book. It could even be a TeenBiz article. It could be on the website Epic or on the Libby app. Anything that is just keeping them reading and reading and reading. They also want to make sure that they're going on to Edmodo or Go Math /MyHRW every day. There will be math practice every afternoon. And we are expecting your child to complete their assigned classwork by the end of the day. I want this to be done by 3:30 this afternoon so that they don't have to worry about it in the evening. But sometime before, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning is what we're expecting, so that, we know what's happening with your child. We understand, where they are as far as their understanding of curriculum. And right now, I do want to go back to that reading. When we say 30 minutes now, what we're saying is right now we want our students to be reading 30 minutes at the end of the day independently. Later on, as students grow as learners and readers, that might move to 45 minutes or even 60 minutes, depending on your child's needs.
So good evening, families. As I go through the next few slides with you today, please focus primarily on the yellow bolded words for your takeaways. In fact, this is a great strategy that we use in the classroom to support our learners when tons and tons of information is being presented at them. In reading, there is a balance, 50-50. That is 50% literature and 50% informational text, fiction and nonfiction. With both types of text, we will be focusing on understanding, analyzing, and evaluating. How will we do that? Well, we're going to engage in close readings and collaborative conversations. We will be annotating and writing about text. We'll be citing textual evidence to support analysis, and that analysis could include setting, plot, tone, point of view, figurative language, author's purpose, and most importantly, we will also be looking at integrating all that information from multiple sources. We will also be using shared reading, guided reading, and teacher read-alouds to support our students. In shared reading, we engage and collaborate to make meaning as a whole group. We read the same text together. In guided reading, we work with flexible groupings, focusing on similar needs, such as comprehension skills, vocabulary, thinking strategies, and a few maybe on fluency. The last part is that read aloud. We still read to our students in 6th grade. Why? Because all kids love to be read to. Not only that, when we read to our students, we are actually modeling specific skills, thinking aloud, thinking strategies, along with pacing, intonation, expression, and fluency. And some of you might know that as prosody, but that's part of the read aloud process that we model for students. To be successful, we need to motivate our students and encourage them to do the following. 1, TeenBiz 3000. TeenBiz, again, is focusing on informational articles at your child's independent reading level. We are recommending 2+ more activities completed in class with 75% or better each week. We would also like to encourage our students to really hone in on accelerated reader. Each student has a personal reading goal That's based on the STAR reading test. Students will read within their zone of proximal development. There is a lower end and a higher end, and we would like kids to kind of hone in on that range and work towards their 9-point goal and pass with 85% accuracy. I'm going to come back to this. This is going to be very important because some of our students, and also your child might want to talk to you about this, but students are going to be encouraged to really look for content. Books that we've chosen fall within a ZPD range. But if we say 6.5, let's just know that there's a lower end of that ZPD and then a higher end. But what we want to do is focus on content rather than that exact reading level. And students are expected to read, I know Mrs. Lafferty said right now 30 minutes, but that will increase. Eventually, we would like students to be able to read 1 hour per day by the end of the year. I know, don't pass out, an hour per day. And why does that matter? There is a correlation between time spent reading with academic success. Looking at this chart, you'll see that there are 3 columns. The first one is the percentile rank. The middle column is minutes per day spent in reading. And the final column is words read per year in books. We're talking about words. We're talking about vocabulary. So a student who is reading about 65 minutes per day, academically, in terms of assessments, would fall within the 98th percentile. Putting that more into perspective, that child would have read 4,358,000 words in 1 year. Now, I'd like for you to go a little bit right there where it is the 50th percentile. We're looking around 5 minutes per day. A child who's reading 5 minutes per day would be somewhere in the 50th percentile and would have read 282,000 words per year. That is a huge, huge discrepancy. And as we know, reading success leads to academic success. So what we can do is we really can motivate our students, motivate your kids, motivate your babies to read, 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 and read. We can do it together.
Now, with writing, we tend to spend a lot of time in language arts on writing, but not only do we spend a lot of time in language arts on writing, we spend a lot of time in every other subject on writing. So in writing with language arts, we will focus on narrative, we'll focus on argument, we'll focus on various forms of informative. But like I said, it will take place across the curriculum. So you'll see your students writing quite a bit in math, in social studies, and in science. Really, what we want them to see is that writing is everywhere. What we really want them to do is explain their thinking. Did you want to add anything to that, Ms. Robbins?
Just maybe one thing that's going to be a change, my friends. Our students are now in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade band. The writing that you're used to from kinder all the way through 5th is opinion writing. In 6th grade, we shift to argument. There are some subtle differences. We will teach those subtle differences to you, but know that from here on out, most of your essays will be argument essays rather than opinion pieces.
Good evening, everyone. This is Mr. Lee. I'm one of the 6th grade teachers. More specifically, I'll be focusing on the math for this year. So I apologize first and foremost if your family has had a couple of fights or arguments or a little bit of angst on the homework for the past few previous nights. I take fault of that. Yes, one car does have 4 tires. Yes, 1 yard is 3 feet. And yes, 1 week is 7 days. So if your family has had a little bit of discussion about mathematics, I actually really enjoy that because the discourse of mathematics, either inside the classroom or at your house, is really important. And if you ever have any questions about mathematics, because it's been a while since we've looked at pre-algebra, please always shoot me an email anytime. So I'd like to first start off with what you might see at home. At home, your child might show you a couple different apps. The main one that we use is Edmodo. Edmodo is the one that looks like Facebook. It's the one that is curated by myself and Mr. Riggs, and the problems align closely with what we do in classroom on the Eureka program. It's a supplemental program that's modeled after Singapore math. Your child might also have access to HMH My HRW. My HRW is attached to the district adopted book, Hood Mifflin Go Math, and that's more of your typical Basel. So we use those 2 apps primarily in assigning daily practice for our students. We also have a third app that we will start to deploy soon. Your child just finished the assessment called iReady, and that's more individualized assessments and practice for your child's needs. So if your child is working at the 7th grade level, they'll be getting practice at that level. If your child has gaps in their learning from previous grade levels, they'll also be addressing those needs as well. So overall, we have 3 apps that you might see at home on a nightly basis. Myself, Mr. Riggs, we don't expect your child to do hours and hours of homework nightly. Our goal for this year is to complete most of the tasks in class and maybe have them work on a little bit of iReady or their math choice menu for the evening. So if you see your child spending hours and hours and hours on the math practice nightly, please have them make just an educated guess, submit, and then move on with their life. Every single morning, Mr. Riggs and myself, we print out the reports, we look at every student's response, and then that will dictate what we do for the rest of the day. So yes, we do follow the pacing guide, and yes, we do follow the district adopted plans, but your child's practice helps guide our instruction every day. So I tell the students, it's not really like middle school because next year they're going to give you guys lots and lots of homework. For Mr. Riggs and myself, we just want enough to help us prepare you the following day. And if we have this mathematical conversation and feedback for 180 days, you will be prepared for whatever middle school you go to next year. In class for the 6th grade math year, I have highlighted and bulleted what I feel is going to be the biggest ideas for this year. If you can recall back to your math career, think back to what we all did in 7th and in 8th grade. If you actually looked at the blueprint for the Common Core Mathematics that were published about 10 years ago, you can kind of see a large shift from 7th to 6th grade. Basically what they did was they took the majority of the algebra standards they all learned as adults from 7th grade and they pushed it down to 6th grade. And to do 6th grade a favor, they removed a small little bit of probability and a small little bit of operations. But the bulk of what we adults learned, many years ago in pre-algebra, middle school, is now where we begin the curriculum for 6th grade mathematics. So that's kind of like a big idea of what you can expect for your child's math year. So I always tell the students, right, we just happen to be placed in elementary school, but in reality, we are now part of the 6, 7, 8 band. We are officially middle schoolers. We're going to practice and prepare us for any middle school that we will attend next year in preparation for some of the bigger ideas in 7th and 8th grade IM mathematics. So I'm going to just quickly talk about the big idea that we're going to cover this year. First and foremost, all 4 areas of operations should be mastered. Okay, so that is a big shift. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing by any number except negatives should be mastered by the time we get to 6th grade. We will, of course, review some ideas of operations before we get to middle school, but we are assuming and we are understanding that most students have mastered operating before they get to 6th grade. Next, students will use letters or numbers in formulas involving geometric shapes and in ratios to represent an unknown part of an expression. So the bulk of this year, about 3 months, one topic will be spent on just algebra and building the foundations for the next 3 years. Students will walk away able to write and solve one-step linear equations, or what you might remember as y is equal to mx plus b. We will leave them right before applying that formula, but they should have all the parts before heading off into middle school, which is a big shift from previous years. We will also spend a few weeks talking about data and statistics. This is one area that gets a lot of kids stuck because we have to talk about standard deviation, interquartile range, and error analysis. We will also talk about mean, median, mode, and range, but not just to solve them, but what happens when we modify an input. We will also, right now already, talk about the ideas of ratios and proportions, and we are about a third of the way through that. That will then lead into the idea of percentages, because the percent we will treat it as out of 100 ratio versus just bumping the decimal, what we were taught. Students will also understand and utilize integers. We will not operate with integers, that'll be for next year, but students will understand integers on a number line, negative numbers, and positive numbers. And lastly, we will talk about geometry, but the geometric principles will be tied to algebra, because once again, 6th grade is the foundational piece of algebra that we remember as pre-algebra, maybe in 7th grade we were in school. Lastly, I want to end my just breakdown of the standards. Even though that these are the standards that Common Core has adopted, myself, Mr. Riggs, every time we pose problems to students, it's really never in isolation. If you've seen some of the problems that we have assigned to students, they are always tied to real world or real life examples. And that's my goal. I always tell my students that no matter what we are learning here in school, we don't know what's going to happen in the future when you start your career. I tell students, 10 years ago, when I say, hey, in the future, in the year 2020, I'm going to prepare you to be a drone pilot. Nobody would understand what we're saying. But right now, you can get a 6-figure job working for Amazon as a drone pilot. So the things that we're practicing right now, mathematics, reading, writing, science, history, they're preparing you to solve problems. No matter what skill you're attaining, it will always require problem solving and solving something that's in real life. So I'm not in the idea of having 50 problems in isolation. I will always try to tie problems to some sort of problem solving. If you ever have any questions or comments or concerns about mathematics, please feel free to shoot them to me or Mr. Riggs, and I will try to get back to you as quickly as possible. Thank you so much, family.
All right. So a couple of things to make math more manageable and to ensure that your child is successful in math. We ask that your child make sure that they have their Go Math book and their Eureka packet easily accessible. We ask that your child have a math journal that they can put their math notes in every single day, and make sure that your child is doing their afternoon practice every afternoon. If the math lesson was Go Math that day, then the practice will be My HRW. And if the lesson was a Eureka lesson, then the math practice or homework will be Edmodo. If you have any concerns, please, like Mr. Lee said, please feel free to send us an email and we will ensure that we will answer it for you, or we'll get you the answer as soon as we can. I'm looking forward to another great year, though, I'll tell you that.
So Mr. Lee and I are both teaching your children science. Mr. Lee teaches the earth science and the physical science portion of our rotations, and I teach the physical science with energy and the life science. Your child gets the earth science from Mr. Lee. This might be the last time they're going to see earth science for a very long time, unless they take earth science in high school. So it's very important for them to really understand how the earth sciences really connect to our world, earth structures, plate tectonics, earth's surface. We do physical science with the flow of heat and energy. We also do life science with the energy and their cellular function, cellular processes, and body systems.
Miss Robbins and myself, we teach the social studies. In 6th grade, it's all about ancient civilizations and early humans. We discuss the significance of a slew of different ancient cultures. Our goal is not to just teach a bunch of boring facts about something that happened 5,000 years ago. It's important for us to help your child understand why the past can help us better understand where we're going to go in the future. If we learn from the generations before us, then hopefully we'll make a better world. So really our goal is to learn about the early humans and the first cities and Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, Rome, ancient China, and all those places, but with the lens that we're going to use what they developed to enhance our lives, and we're going to learn about their downfalls and how we can help to make sure that that doesn't happen to our society as well. Really, we are looking at this not just as only a history class, but as a history class that helps with the present day and the future.
Oh, it's Miss Robbins again, and I have the extracurricular. So every time I see this slide, I get really sad. I'm trying my very best not to get too sad and try to motivate our friends, our students, our kiddos to really have a positive outlook on what's happening. These are the extracurricular activities that in any given 6th grade year we would participate in. We do have music and art. Fortunately, thank goodness to our fabulous VAPA team that really works with our students. They are receiving music or art for an hour every single Wednesday with an alternating schedule. Music one week, art the next week. So take a moment to kind of look, and I'm hoping and praying and I'm sending good thoughts out there that we'll be back in school. And if and when we do come back to school, we do still want to attempt to have a cotillion. Of course, 6 feet apart, maybe line dances. We'll do what we can. We don't want your 6th grader to miss out on any of the fun things that we do in 6th grade. We as a 6th grade team will do our very best, very, very best to accommodate them in any way that we can. Those are some of the great things that I'm hoping will continue.
And that concludes our PowerPoint. I wasn't able to curate the Q&A.
I have been kind of monitoring it.
I'll just read the ones that I have been able to publish. Let's see. It says, my child says that with math apps, it's only by assignment, like there's no independent practice. Is this correct?
I guess what I'm assuming they are asking is there's no practice like team biz at their level. Every practice is independently done. We teach a lesson and then we assign practice. If the child doesn't finish it, then they might have to spend a few more minutes after class to finish it, or they can join us during office hours. We're in class for an extra hour in case any child needs our help. As far as maybe a program like Team Biz that's differentiated instruction, I'm assuming that's what they might mean by independent. We do have iReady. So iReady is like the math version of Team Biz. They will meet the individual child's needs, but we can also assign class practice through iReady as well. In addition to that, we also have good old-fashioned, paper and pencil practice as far as just daily practice in our books. and also the choice menus that just came out today.
Another math question. If a child fails the math test, is there a makeup test if the child did not do well or did not understand?
Sure. So with assessments online, it's going to be a little bit tricky. One, we have to trust the integrity of it. So that's why we ask parents to have the camera on most of the days so that we can ensure that it's the child taking the test and they're not using some sort of manipulatives or things that they shouldn't to get their score. But if the child really, really wants to redo the test after studying and going over their mistakes, then we are more than open for that.
One of the reading questions is AR test. How often?
Well, that would depend on the actual book. If a child is reading the picture book, that's about 32 pages, and there are some shorter books that they can get on Epic, that's 32 pages, that's fiction and nonfiction. I would say read it, 2 days, read it a couple of times prior to taking the test. If it's a longer book, I always say if it's a novel, it should take you about 2 weeks, counting Saturday and Sunday. And if you don't count Saturday and Sunday, you have to read more throughout the week. So it's kind of hard to say how many AR tests to take weekly. I would go more towards the amount of points that the student must earn. And for those of us who are new to Wolf Canyon, AR Book Find is a great resource. Type in a title such as Last Stop on Market Street. It'll give you a book level as well as number of points. That is a great way to start. We have selected books through Epic. They are a little dry, but again, it's getting us to read, right? And it applies to what we're learning. The books that Mrs. Lafferty and I have pushed out to all the students have to do with social and emotional learning. Read those books, take a test. So it's going to be based on the student's AR goal for the quarter.
Where can we find AR books online? Are there AR books in Epic at the 6th grade level?
Awesome question. Yes, Mrs. Lafferty and I have worked with the kids. We had them sign up for Epic. We showed them how to actually log in, choose books, click on the book, then look it up on arbookfind.com. That's going to be a great resource. We'll actually put a link in our Teams channel. Make sure you cross-reference, because I found on Epic that some of the books that are listed as AR are not actually AR. But Mrs. Lafferty and I went through and looked at all the titles and we got rid of the ones that were not AR. Another one is Libby. When you go into Libby, look for books. Again, use AR Book Find. In the classroom, we would be doing this together. We'd be going to the library. We would be looking in front of a computer and checking to see that that book is an AR leveled book. Even when you're at Barnes & Noble and you're not really sure about that book, put it on your phone. AR Book Find pops up. It has a reading level and it has a number of points. If it does not, it is not an AR book.
I do want to add one other thing. Our school is working with our school librarian to find a way in order for you to look through our system of available books and put books on hold. You would be able to put up to 5 books on hold each week. There would be a pickup day for each grade level. You would be able to come pick up the books bundled up for you, read your books, take your AR test, bring them back, put on hold some new books. We will send out more information on that. There will be a flyer. We are hoping that this will be rolled out in October, but please have patience because, there are always technical difficulties. Let's see. There's another great question. How are students being graded with distance learning?
We are going to be having parent-teacher conferences in about a month or so. During that, we're going to be giving a progress report. That's almost like the first quarter report card. And then we actually will have a regular old report card right before winter break, and then another report card right before spring break, and then another report card right before the end of the year. Yes, your children are being graded, and yes, they will have report cards.
And I kind of want to piggyback on that just slightly. What we found as a 6th grade team is the whole idea of what happened in the 4th quarter. When we left for the 4th quarter, through distance learning was crisis learning, right? Teachers, we were unfamiliar with how to teach online. We, as a district, decided that we would really focus in on social emotional development, making sure that our babies, our students, right, are secure, that they're not afraid with everything that's going on. Now, with the 1st quarter, there are expectations. We have classwork that needs to be completed. And how do we grade? What you can do, and my recommendation is this, go to the assignments page, have your child log into Teams. Assignments page, click on assignments. If it's still illuminated and it says 0, your child has not completed it. If you would like to see completed assignments, click on completed. When you go to the completed section, you will see an assignment and number of points given, as well as the number of points points possible. That will help right now. I know that Teams is in the process of creating something for parent notification. We're still waiting for that. We're hoping that that will come soon, where you will receive notifications through email. But as of right now, the only option we have is, one, you can always contact us. We're always here. But the easiest way would be go to assignments, click on assignments, and see if there's anything missing. And if they have been completed, how many points did your child earn? There should be some feedback on there as well.
In math specifically, if your child is not doing their homework, they're going to be contacted by either myself or Mr. Lee or their homeroom teacher. We are definitely trying to contact and let you know as soon as possible whether your child is doing their work or not. If you haven't really received any information about it, they're doing their work. Speaking of grading, and just like Miss Robbins had said, I have 3 daughters myself that go to Wolf Canyon. And one thing that I do is I actually have them sit down and show me what they're doing in class in Teams. Show me where the Teams chat is. Show me where that assignments tab is. Show me everything on Teams, because that shows that they know what they're doing. Then I am also in the loop and I don't feel like I don't know what's going on in their classroom. So as a parent, I cannot suggest this strongly enough. Have your child show you Teams. Once you see it, you'll probably better understand it. And if you still have questions, reach out to us, please, please, please.
We have a few more questions about AR. I can answer those quickly. Somebody was asking if AR points are being set for this semester. We've set goals for each quarter, so your children do have AR points for the quarter. There's another question about Epic. Some of the content or books in Epic might be available for a fee. I do want to explain something that's new about Epic. We discovered with Epic this year is that they can read between the hours of 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. for free. And then if they want to read past 4 p.m., they are able to read up to 2 hours a week for free with a parent account. Beyond that, it is available for a fee.
I just want to say this is awesome, that we have students who exceed their AR points and they're just reading the same types of books. And each teacher has a binder. We kind of monitor what your child is reading and really encouraging that they're getting that variety. Because as we mentioned, there's got to be 50% literature, 50% informational text.
And I'm going to make this our last question, but if you have other questions that pop up into your head while we're, finishing this up, please feel free to email your homeroom teacher. But this last question says, can teachers reach out to parents if teachers see that the need of a child is struggling or not doing well or falling behind? Absolutely. And that's part of the reason why we have our first quarter conferences. We will be working with you on things that they need in order to make sure that they're meeting grade level by the end of the year, what their next steps will be. We will be in contact with you regularly. You don't have to worry about us letting your children fall through the cracks.
I just want to thank every single parent out there. And I'm talking to you guys, right? You're here. You took the time to come to this meeting because you feel that education is important. And I'm speaking for all of us as a 6th grade team. I just want to say thank you. You have raised a child that is wonderful. They are very forgiving. And when we talk about grace, I have received so much grace. And I hope I don't get all teary-eyed here. So much grace from every student that I've interacted with this past, few weeks, that my heart is filled with so much joy. Because if this is the generation that we are raising, the generation that's going to go out there and love the community and love the people and show empathy and compassion, then we've done a great job. And parents, you have done a great job. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I really do appreciate all your support. And give your child a hug. Just all of them. From all of us, just give them all a hug because they've earned it.
Thank you, Ms. Robbins. Well, I do want to say thank you for joining us tonight. Like we said, the information will be posted on the 6th grade blog. Please make sure that you follow it so you stay up to date. Have a wonderful night, ladies and gentlemen.